Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to do a tier list on the vehicle in Street Fighter Duel. Now, basic vehicles give you some passive abilities and I really want to focus on the resource management perspective for vehicles because some characters you will see a clear power jump when you unlock kind of the highest level of the passive with 6 vehicles, where some characters you don't really see that much benefit from them. So considering this is like another gacha system in order to get the vehicles, and therefore you really want to optimize how you set up your wish list. And also, if you ever get those free selection boxes where you can choose any vehicle of your choice, you just really want to make sure you don't waste any unnecessary resources. And that's kind of why I'm going to set up my tier list this way, talking about characters who is going to get massive power jump if you have all 6 vehicles, and then some characters who doesn't really get too much incremental benefit or just really not worth it to unlock that level. And then towards the end, I also have this composition base. So those are characters who I think it's up to you on whether you want to do them because they are actually really good at 6 vehicles. However, you kind of need them to be in a specific composition or team lineup for them to actually work and take full advantage of them. So depending on whether you are intended to build a lineup such as that, then it's up to you whether you go kind of 6 vehicles or 0 vehicles. All right. With all that being said, let's just dive straight into the tier list. I'm going to start off at the top with Zangief. Zangief's 6 vehicle is very interesting because it allows you to ignore the passive of the enemies. And right now, there's one really annoying passive in the game, which is M. Bison. M. Bison's passive prevents him from dying as long as there are other characters on the field, or other teammates on the field, and therefore he's almost like unkillable. So if Zangief is able to nullify his passive, M. Bison's passive, that's gonna be absolutely incredible, and that's why Zangief have to be at the first spot here. Then we have Elena. Elena is also very good because what she's able to do is put up damage reduction at start of battle, but also most importantly allows you to gain a small amount of combo gauge, and that a lot of time allows you to get the first hit or execute the first combo chain faster than your opponent. So that's an absolutely must have as well. So that's why she is going to be a 6 vehicle. Then we have Abu and Yihonda. They are able to put up a shield slash bullet wall at start of battle that really help to protect your team. This is going to be extremely useful in story maps when you are facing off against enemy beast Zangief who are always going to like outspeed you, etc. So a lot of time you kind of need to be defensive at the start of the battle, and Abu and Yihonda are just absolutely perfect for that reason, and therefore you also want them as 6 vehicles. Next up we have Guy. The reason why Guy I put at 6 vehicles is he's a 6 vehicle allows his passive to be able to be used whenever any teammate kill an enemy, and that's going to be really strong in Guild Shadowland. So not so much in PvP or PvE, I think, because you won't trigger that much. You only can trigger like at most 3 times. However, in Guild Shadowland, that's going to be absolutely crazy because what happens is sometimes you can already see that with Matt Ryu. Is Matt Ryu's passive, as soon as he kills off someone, then he fires off Hadouken and then kills the next, and then just goes on a chain where he literally kills off like 20 enemies in a row. You are now able to do that with Guy as well. And even better because Guy's effect is going to be applied to your entire team. So you can literally have a whole team of DPS, and he is just going to be able to keep on hitting extra hard every single time, and literally just help you to rack up so much damage in Guild Shadowland. And also, it's targeted attack as well. It's targeting the enemy with the lowest HP. So that's gonna be even better. So this is gonna be absolutely crazy in Guild Shadowland. And that's why I think you really want him as 6 vehicles. Matt Ryu. I was debating on Matt Ryu for a bit because in order to activate it, so basically at 6 vehicles, he if he sacrificed 100% of his HP, then he will get 70% increase in damage, which is absolutely amazing. Like that's like almost doubling your attack. That's absolutely crazy. The problem with this is that you need to sacrifice 100% of your HP first, and the most you can sacrifice in one combo chain is only 25% because you can sacrifice 15 in the first combo starter, and then another 10% in combo 2 or combo 3. So that basically means in order to even activate it, you kind of need to be at least four combo chains in. And normally a combo chain takes about 10 seconds in the battle. So that means you normally won't even see this taking effect till the second half of the battle, which is why I'm a bit debatable here. However, because it does bring out so much extra damage output, you can literally turn the game around from 45 seconds onwards. I think it's just too good a boost for me to ignore. That's why I'm gonna put him six vehicles. Actually, I might put him at the end, just to demonstrate the fact that even though I think he needs to be at six vehicles, it is a bit debatable because you do need a really long time for him to warm up first. All right. Next we have M Bison and Rose. M Bison and Rose, they basically are six vehicles allows them to do true damage. True damage is always good because it essentially ignores defense. So that's like the ultimate armor break. So that's why it's gonna be absolutely amazing. Especially for Rose. Rose sometimes lacks a bit of oomph in terms of her damage output. So if you're able to deal some true damage, alongside M Bison's true damage, that's gonna be crazy. So that's why they need six vehicles. Um, Jewelry six vehicle is also very important. It increases her dodge significantly. It doesn't say by how much, which is a bit annoying. However, I'm going to trust the narrative here, which is they say it's going to increase it by a lot. And if you're able to increase her dodge by a lot, you are greatly increasing her survivability. And as three vehicles, she's already able to kind of like life steal, that kind of like heal up her HP as well. So it's going to be a massive game changer when you have not because before Jury is kind of like a glass cannon. However, now if you have a glass cannon who can keep on dodging, it's actually going to be really deadly. So that's why six vehicle is a massive power jump for Jury. Uh, Blank, I think it's really good. However, I think I need to test it out. Once again, I'm putting a lot of the ones I'm putting in this tier list is purely by their description. Obviously, I haven't actually went far enough in the game to test all of this. I'm really hoping they have the draft system back up for me to actually test this again. But judging by what the narrative says, what it's going to do is that it's going to potentially stun the enemy for zero point 0.5 seconds whenever he's getting hit. Well, at least there's that potential. And that's really good because it's essentially a passive interruption because when you stun an enemy, then you're essentially going to interrupt them. What I need to test though, however, is that it's zero point 0.5 seconds stun enough to actually interrupt a combo chain. And that's really going to be the main game changer because if you're able to actually interrupt a combo chain, this is absolutely a god tier ability to have. But I'm going to go with my gut here, which is saying I don't think zero point 0.5 seconds is actually long enough because, first of all, it stuns the enemy who is actually attacking into him, which basically means that it's not going to stun the next person in the combo chain. You're only going to stun the person already attacking, so the combo chain is already in motion. And also, 0.5 second means that normally for the combo chain, there's a bit of a long gap. And I think normally it's like a 1 second gap before you can execute the next part of the combo chain. So I actually have a feeling 0.5 seconds is not quite long enough to prevent the combo chain from executing either. So yeah, I think I need to test this one, but right now I'm just gonna put it in the sixth vehicle to demonstrate there is this potential to be a really broken skill. All right, next up we have Survivor. Survivor is another one I need to test, to be honest. I'm really unsure about her skill. What she is able to do with three vehicles is essentially putting up a shield, which is amazing, but doing that at a cost of losing armor energy, which makes sense because if you lost off the armor energy, then you won't be able to activate this skill again so soon. However, a sixth vehicle says she's able to do this without losing any armor energy. And there's no cooldown on the three vehicle skill. And that's actually making me think, does that mean this gonna be activating all the time as soon as someone falls below the HP threshold? She's just gonna put up a free shield? If so, that's gonna be absolutely broken if you pair up with like a healer, right? Because essentially drop below that HP threshold, you put up a shield, your healer's gonna heal them back up, and then if they drop down below, you get another free shield. Like this is gonna be crazy. So once again, I really need to test Sea Viper again for that ability. But right now, I'm trusting what the narrative says, which is there's no cooldown and just going to be a broken skill, and that's why I place her as six vehicles. Next up we have combat guard. Combat guard is quite straightforward. Basically, he's going to get increased attack and increased HP, and it's quite a lot of a big buff as well. And that's why I think six vehicles is a massive power jump for him. Charming Dudley, this one is quite interesting. Basically, what it allows you to do is to do extra increased damage to the opponent with Black Rose Mark. And this is for all of your whole team. So that's actually really nice benefit. And what makes it even better is that if you do happen to have his fighting spirit up, then the Black Rose mark never goes away because when the person with the Black Rose mark dies, it actually gets transferred to someone else. So that actually effectively means you're gonna get a constant, I believe, like 12% increased damage against the enemy all the time. Well, one enemy, but that and the Black Rose mark will just get transferred afterward. So that's like effectively a 12% increase in damage throughout most of the battle. So that's absolutely crazy. And that's why I think, six vehicle is going to be a big power jump for him. But the prerequisite is that you do need his fighting spirit up as well. All right. Now let's move on to the next tier. So those are characters who I think are three vehicles is a massive power jump. I don't think you need to waste any more resources to go all the way up to six vehicles, and I'll kind of explain why. Starting off with Beast Sangler, three vehicles is amazing because it increased your probability of stunning. Like his combo two is already a great interruption skill. If you're able to make it more consistent, it's going to be absolutely amazing. So that's why he's three vehicles. You don't need him to be all six vehicles because it just increases damage output a bit more. But you are not using Beast Sangler for damage, so there's no point there. Again, three vehicles essentially means that when he's about to die, he is going to attack the enemy with low 6 HP with a crazy amount of target damage, a high amount of damage. Sixth vehicle, he is going to also use his clone to do the attack to that enemy as well. However, just judging by how much damage he's able to do as three vehicle, I think most of the time you're able to one shot already. So I don't think you actually need that extra clone to do more damage. So that's why I think three vehicles is gonna be enough. Delson's three vehicles is quite straightforward, it's just increased damage. He already deals crazy amount of flame and burn damage. So if you're able to increase that even more, absolutely amazing. His sixth vehicle basically means he will be meditating whenever he's not moving. This is a bit which I'm not too sure because normally, if you look at my fire team guide, I always say with Dowson, you should always start off with his combo starter and finish off with his combo tree. So actually, in your own combo chain, he will be moving most of the time. And if you are not attacking, then it really depends on whether the enemy is gonna attack you. Because if the enemy do attack you, it's very likely they may kind of like knock you back or knock you up, etc. And then therefore you'll be moving as well. So even though it looks really good on paper, I am slightly skeptical about how useful it actually is in real battle because I don't actually think he will be idle for too long, and that's kind of why I place him as three vehicles. Um, Fashion Sakura. Fashion Sakura's three vehicles are absolutely amazing because what happens is right now, in order to use Fashion Sakura in your starting lineup, a lot of time what you need to do is you need to start off the combo with her first to activate her I don't know, Dazzling Sakura, so she then get kind of like boosted buff for all of her subsequent attacks. But what now this is able to allow Fashion Sakura to do is that she's now able to activate that with her passive. So now you no longer need to start off the combo chain with her, and that is going to give you a lot of flexibility, which is why I think that's going to be really good. Combos six vehicles, I don't think is that bigger buff because what it allows you to do is grant the ally with the lowest HP damage resist and also higher healing rate. However, it doesn't actually heal them directly, and actually it doesn't separate as normally passive. It's able to heal that person with the lowest HP already. So if you're already healing them out, do you really then need that damage resist? It just feels a bit weird. So I don't really think you really need to spend the extra resources to go all the way up to six vehicles for Sakura. Then we move on to Kami. Kami's three vehicles is crazy because what it means is that she's going to replace her normal attack with another attack, which is essentially her passive attack, and that passive attack is able to inflict combo armor break. So what that actually means as three vehicles is that you will be able to inflict armor break with normal attacks, and that's just going to be absolutely crazy. And you'll be able to stack up your armor break so quickly with that. As six vehicles, what it means is that those normal attacks and those passive triggers are gonna have increased damage. However, most of the time you don't really care about those because those are not for damage dealing purposes. Those are more for stacking up armor breaks. Your main damage dealing is gonna come from her combo three anyway, so that's why I don't really think you need to go all the way to six vehicles. Three vehicles is sufficient for Cammy. All right, now let's move on to Guile. Guile's, I don't think you need to up the vehicles much at all, to be honest. Uh, because basically what it allows you to do is build up your saber quicker if your allies also use range attack. But to be honest, he normally build up his stack up his saber quite quickly already, and it also allows you to stack up to seven instead of five. But to be honest, five normally is already quite deadly. So I just don't really see too much incremental benefit here. Trinity's sixth vehicle is actually really good. However, I'm debating to see once again in real life would it actually work because it do require you to do 20 crit first. Uh, Now it's very similar to what Matt Reyes does because essentially you need time to warm up before you can do it. However, what Trinity separate Trinity and Matt Reyes boost is going to be permanent. Trinity's one is on cooldown, so you do all of that just to boost up for a short amount of time. I just don't think it's worth it, which is why I think Trinity you can kind of skip her vehicles as well. T-Hawk just always confuses me because what happens is T-Hawk just in constant struggle or conflict between trying to dispel buff or try to dispel debuff and also immunity resist. And I mentioned this in my other videos already. If you are already resisting, have a higher resistance, then you won't even get the debuff in the first place. Then what are you going to dispel? It just seems really weird. It just seems like half of his kit never worked, which is I just don't get why, and that's why I don't think you need to invest any resource into something which doesn't even work half of the time. All right. Then we have Fei Long. What Fei Long does is that his passive is gonna hurt even more with increased crit and also more accurate effect. The thing is, normally you only play Fei Long in a fire team with Daosum. Daosum is already able to get 100% burn inflicted with his fighting spirit. So effect resist, extra effect I can't actually remember what's the word now, but the extra increased chance of inflicting debuff or kind of status is just by users and Dawson when he's already able to do that 100%. And also the second part about increasing crit damage, the damage you normally do with fire teams from the stacking of the burns is not to do with crit. So once again, it's just not worth it. It just doesn't go in alongside with how a fire team normally behave. So just be useless there. Next up, we have Adon. Adon's uh, vehicle system is all to do with Hatred Mark, which is very similar to Charming Dudley in the sense that it basically weakens them both offensively and also defensively. The problem that differentiate Adon and also Charming Dudley is Hatred Mark doesn't transfer. And if someone is already on the Hatred Mark, that normally means that they will die quite quickly. So you don't really need any more negative effects associated with someone with Hatred Mark because you are not actually going to take full advantage of that for a really long time. They will just die very quickly afterwards. So that's why I don't think Adon really need the vehicle system either. Hugo is another weird one. Basically, Hugo, what it does is that at 10 potato stack, he's going to do something. But if you also look at Hugo's kit, a lot of time he wants to consume potato stack. And in fact, I'm pretty sure he do something that consumes at 7 stacks. So it's like, how are you even going to build it all the way up to 10 stacks of potatoes when you'll be consuming at 7? Once again, just going to be like a really weird kit with Hugo, which I don't think he will be using all the time. So therefore, it's not really worth the investment. Um, then we have Yun. Yun is very similar to Yan, but I'm going to talk about why Yan is in a slightly different tier. But basically, Yun requires trigger attacks in order to buff himself up. And right now in the game, there are too many, first of all, trigger attacks and trigger passive. And second of all, trigger passive normally only activate like once per chain or per combo. And so normally there's like an upper limit on how many different chains of trigger attacks you're able to do. And therefore there's an upper cap on how much buff you're able to give to Yun. And that's kind of why I don't think it's really worth the investment. Um, Compared to Yang, however, Yang's basically getting buff when your team gets crit, and there's no cap on crit because, for example, if I'm using someone who attack a lot of time, like Trini, she can crit multiple times, and therefore I immediately increase my buff up to the fullest. As opposed to Yun, who yes, he get buff when people use trigger, but trigger is a lot more rare and unlikely for you to max out, and therefore his potential, well, his ceiling just not going to be as high as Yan. That's why Yun is kind of at zero vehicles here. Then we have DiCaprio and Mayor Cody. The problem with both of them is Bison. DiCaprio focus on the enemy with lowest HP. Most of the time, if there's an enemy Bison, it'll be focusing on enemy Bison, and that's just gonna be really annoying. It's such a waste of her entire kit. Mayor Cody duels the enemy with no, the enemy which is in the nearest position, and most time if the enemy have a Bison and don't have a tank, it's gonna be Bison. And his vehicle kit kicks in when you win the duel, but Bison never dies, so you will never win the duel against Bison. So once again, his kit is kind of useless, and that's why I think both of them are zero vehicles. All right, now finally moving on to the last hit. So those are characters who I think actually vehicle system are pretty good, but you kind of need to build a whole team around that in order to actually take advantage of them. So starting off with poison. Poison and also Dudley effect. Basically what you want is you want a team with the potential to inflict lots of effects. So for Dudley, it's going to be control effect. So if you have a way of inflicting lots of control effect, Dudley is just going to keep on doing his counter attack punch, and that's going to rack up the damage really quickly. If I pair him up with, let's say, Blanca with 6 vehicles, who is able to stun an enemy for, even though it's only for half a second, because I'll be keep on stunning them. I'll be keep on dishing out attacks with my Dudley, and your damage is going to be absolutely crazy. So that's why I think this is actually going to be really good if you have a specific composition that is able to do controls. Now, poison is very similar. You need to have some kind of status effect in order for her to deal more damage. Now, the easiest one is probably pairing her up with like Cammy, who's able to stack up loads of like armor break because her effect actually works on armor break as well. So if you do have a composition which is kind of associated with some kind of status effect that you're always inflicting, then I think poison is probably going to deserve 6 vehicle for that massive amount of increase in damage. DJ basically makes shield stronger. So if you do happen to have a team with shields, with shield base, then I think he could be very good. One caveat I want to make is with Abel though, because Abel's shield basically is kind of like one hit shield. It just basically ignores how much damage they're doing because it doesn't scale off on HP or defense or attack. It basically just says, a shield that can block X number of hits. So I'm not sure how that's going to work with DJ when he says, make it, last longer, stronger. So I think once again, that's something I need to test to see, whether it's actually going to be able to increase Abel's shield even further as well. But just as a general rule of thumb, if you have any characters who's able to be putting up a shield, let's say Matt Ryu, when his HP is low with his fighting spirit, he's able to grant a shield, then DJ is going to make that shield even stronger. So yes, it can work, but you need a composition where you're actually able to take advantage of the shield. So that's why he's also in this tier. Yan, already mentioned earlier, he is better than Yun because he has basically much quicker way of stacking up his buff because he just only needs crit rather than trigger skills. However, you do really want him to be in a team where you are able to get crit. So, with characters with Trini or let's say jewelry who actually have a really high crit rate, then I think Yang would do really well. But if not, then I don't think you would really want him with the vehicle system. So once again, composition based. Then Makoto is an interesting one. I don't think her vehicle 3 is that good because what it does is when you have 10 stacks of Chi Focus, I think, or Chi Flow, I can't remember which one. Basically, she heals her HP. But the problem with Makoto is that she gets stronger as the battle goes on because she is gonna stack up her Chi Focus and also Chi Flow. So towards the end of the battle, if she already have 10 stack, she is going to be so bulky that she hardly take any damage anyway. So I don't think she actually need a HP recovery so late in the game. If anything, she would benefit from some kind of protection early on in the game to make sure she lasts long enough for all of those stacks to build up. But something that only activate after 10 stacks, that's just been going in the wrong direction with Macto. So that's why I don't think 3 vehicles any good. And for 6 vehicles, you need basically you need a lot of female fighters in your team. Because she's in the lightning faction, if you do happen to bring poison, I think that would be really good because poison do lots of high amount of damage. However, if you bring someone else, let's say Eleanor, who's the other lightning, she doesn't even do any damage, and then therefore, her 6 vehicle is going to be wasted. So that's why she's also going to be in my composition based here, because it depends on really whether you have any other female fighters, and then that would determine whether this 6 vehicle is actually going to bring a power jump or not.